All right, fifth graders, we are going to finish up the drawing of our winter landscapes, and just to recap where we were last time. We started by drawing a large window frame shape, leaving just about an inch or so of space around the edges. Then we filled in that border with organic shapes that look like stones. There is an example of these types of stones on the second page of your packet, and basically just left a little space between them. Then we drew our foreground. Our foreground started with a tree. It could either be a deciduous tree or a coniferous tree, but it needed to be on the far right or far left side of the frame so that it looked like it was in the foreground and it was really large. And it will kind of extend out into your picture, but should kind of stay there on the edges. Then we drew a fence, gate, or wall. Again, the packet has examples of walls. Some people wanted to draw more like a fence. There's some examples of gates in there. And we drew a pathway that gets bigger as it moves closer to us in the foreground. So at the bottom, the lines should be farther apart than at the top of this section here. You could have personalized your foreground by adding other details, an animal, tracks in the snow, a mailbox, a snowman, things like that. Then we moved on to our middle ground. And in our middle ground, we need to draw at least a few more trees. And I didn't finish my trees. I had only drawn this one. They should be significantly smaller than the tree in your foreground. So for example, if I were to draw myself a little coniferous tree here, I'm going to make it, first of all, smaller. And second of all, it's going to be overlapped by anything that I've already drawn in the foreground. So I made that tree look like it's behind the fence. If I were to draw a tree back here, it would need to look like it is behind my house, since I've already drawn in the house, and the house kind of starts at a lower plane. In your middle ground, you should have, like we said, additional trees that are smaller. Also, your path should continue, and it should also get narrower. At the top of your middle ground, it should be close together, but still not touching. And then some kind of structure. And there are lots of examples in this packet of forward-facing structures, although you could add a three-dimensional one if you wanted to. And again, very significantly smaller than that big tree in your foreground because it is in the middle ground and it's further away. Other things you could add in the middle ground, you could add ponds, rivers. If you do add a pond, try to add some details to make it look like water, maybe some texture lines. Remember, this is going to be monochromatic, only shading, no color. So you'll want to give clues. Whatever you continue on your path, whatever texture you had on your path, make sure you continue that same texture in the middle ground so that it's congruent. You might have little side paths here like I did. You can add additional details to your middle ground too. And then we are going to move on to our background. So for the background, we're going to do multiple sections, so not just one line. I would recommend doing overlapping sections of land, and we are going to save at least a little bit of space up there for the sky. So you could start with one line that goes all the way across, and of course I'm going behind my trees that are in the foreground and middle ground. You could also draw more sections of hills, overlapping hills, by kind of crisscrossing the lines. And then you could also add things like mountain ranges, or you could add more rolling hills back here. And then I've got a little bit of space up here for my sky. You can look at the examples to get more ideas. The elements you have to have in your background are your path continuing on. So I'm going to continue this path on these sections of land here, and the lines have to get even closer together. Now I'm not going to start off exactly where I left off here. I'm going to offset my path a little so that it looks like the path went down the back of this hill and I can't see a portion of it. And I'm going to move those lines a little closer together. And then I'm going to repeat that step again on this section of land. And you can do this as many times as you'd like. But on the last section of your path, we want those two lines to actually touch back there. That's called our vanishing point, where the path gets so small that you just can't see it anymore. And then you've got to add more trees in your background as well. So I'm going to add more of the trees, but again, making them even smaller and less detailed than the trees I had in my middle ground and foreground. And if you have lines of kind of showing the horizon lines here, make sure you race out if your trees go over. And since I have multiple sections of background, I'm going to do multiple sets of trees that get even smaller as they go back. So like back here, I'm not even going to draw the sections of the tree. I'm just going to draw the shape. Keep it really small, and you can add more details back here if you want. If you wanted to add another little structure in the background, another little house or barn or cottage, then you can, if you'd like, add other things in your background, more bodies of water, trails, rivers. You could make really teeny tiny details. You can add some details to your sky, things like clouds, a sun, a moon, whatever you'd like. All right, once you are completely satisfied with your drawing and you have all the components you need in each section, the next step is to just outline everything with a Sharpie pen. Make sure you're using the pen, not a marker. Pens have a really fine tip, and that tip will bend if you push really hard on it. So try your best to hold the Sharpie in kind of an upright position. It's maybe a little unnatural. It's not quite how we would hold a pencil, but it'll give you the ability to make a nice straight line without pushing on that tip at an angle, because if it gets bent, it's not going to make a straight line. Don't have to push hard. And we are outlining everything we drew. The frame, the bricks, the stones, all the elements in here, we're going to trace and then erase with one of the big erasers.